The galaxy had always looked down on humans. Other civilizations thought them weak, slow, and chaotic. Small planets with fragile technology, hardly a threat in the vast cosmos. They laughed when Earth sent its first starships beyond the solar system. Primitive beings playing with toys, the Council of Zorath said. They cannot understand war. They will not last a year among the stars. Captain Alaric of the human starship Resolute did not hear their words, but he knew the truth. Humans were underestimated, yes, but that was their greatest advantage. Every human soldier, engineer, and pilot carried not just weapons, but heart, intelligence, and discipline that no alien army could measure. The galaxy had grown arrogant, and arrogance made mistakes. It began quietly. A scout fleet, small and unarmed, ventured into the Veil sector, a space contested by multiple alien factions. Sensors picked up massive fleets approaching. Alaric watched the holographic displays with calm eyes. A wave of anxiety could have rippled through his crew, but it did not. They were trained for this. Every man and woman aboard knew the risks and knew the plan. The alien fleet appeared suddenly, a wall of gleaming metal, massive ships bristling with weapons. From the bridge of the Resolute, it looked like a moving fortress, a city of death hovering silently in space. The Zorath Admiral's message came, "Leave now, human, or be destroyed. You do not belong here." Alaric leaned back, his hands folded behind his head. "They think fear will stop us," he said softly. "It won't, not today." His crew looked at him, feeling the calm in his words. The human army had a rule. Never panic, never hesitate, and never underestimate your enemy, but also never doubt yourself. The first preparations were subtle but precise. Shields were strengthened, weapon systems checked, and the navigation team calculated every possible trajectory. Engineers moved with smooth, efficient motions, rerouting power and running simulations. Soldiers on board strapped into their seats, reviewing protocols again and again. There was no chaos. Every movement, every gesture told the aliens something they could not understand. Humans were ready. And humans were not just ready. They were patient. They waited. They waited because they understood one truth. Wars are won not by panic nor by anger, but by discipline, timing, and courage. Every human aboard the Resolute believed in this, and every human would act as one body when the moment came. The alien fleet sent smaller ships forward to probe, scanning, testing. A single Zorath frigate fired a warning shot. Light streaked through space close enough to make humans duck instinctively, but none panicked. Every shot was analyzed, every movement tracked, every response calculated. Humans did not react randomly. They acted with intelligence, anticipating each attack before it happened. Captain Alaric watched as the frigate's systems were subtly disrupted by human drones. Small, fast, almost invisible, the drones slipped past shields, disabling engines, sending warning messages back to the larger fleet. The aliens blinked in confusion. How could a single ship of humans cripple one of theirs so efficiently? How could a species so young move so perfectly in sync? "This is only the beginning," Alaric said to his crew. "They think they understand us, but they don't, not even a little. Today, they will learn what humans really are. Not just soldiers, professionals, fighters with courage, strategy, and heart." The Resolute drifted silently, calm among the looming shadow of the alien armada. The galaxy had laughed at humans. The galaxy had assumed humans were weak, but Captain Alaric and his crew knew the truth. Today, the laughter would die, replaced by fear and awe. Today, the galaxy would see what a human army really is. The first battle was not yet fought. The tension in space was heavy, almost tangible. But one thing was certain. When humans fought, they fought not just to survive, but to prove something deeper, a truth no alien could deny. The galaxy was about to wake up, and it would never be the same again. The first shot came without warning. One moment, space was calm and silent. The next, streaks of light tore through the void. The Zorath fleet had opened fire. Massive laser beams cut through empty space, striking where they thought human ships would be. The crew of the Resolute felt the vibrations under their feet, the hum of engines straining under sudden pressure. But humans did not panic. Captain Alaric's calm voice echoed through the ship. "Steady, trust your training. Move as one." The crew obeyed instinctively. Ships shifted, shields glowed, and every human soldier braced for the attack. Nothing was random. Every evasion, every maneuver had been anticipated long before the first alien missile even left its launcher. Missiles streaked past, some exploding harmlessly in empty space. Others were intercepted by human drones, small, fast, and invisible until it was too late. The drones twisted around enemy weapons, sabotaging their engines and communication lines, slipping like shadows in the void. The Zorath fleet faltered, unsure how their attacks failed again and again. Alaric watched the holographic display. "They think firepower wins wars," he said softly. "It doesn't. Not when humans fight like this." Tacticians on the bridge calculated angles, speeds, and vulnerabilities in seconds. Engineers rerouted power to shields and weapons simultaneously, creating a balance that seemed impossible to the alien eye. The humans moved as one organism, every ship and every soldier performing a role in perfect harmony. Then came the counterattack. Small human frigates shot forward in precise formation, striking weak points in the alien fleet. Explosions tore through enemy hulls, sending shards of metal spinning into the void. Human soldiers fired with accuracy, each shot deliberate, each strike calculated. The Zorath could not understand it. Their overwhelming numbers should have won, but the humans' discipline turned every advantage against them. Lieutenant Mira, aboard the Resolute, felt her hands tremble with adrenaline. Her first battle against an alien fleet, and yet she felt no fear, only focus. She watched as her ship's cannons found the gaps in the enemy's armor. Every shot mattered. Every human life mattered, and every loss would be honored by victory. The Zorath fleet tried to regroup, forming a wedge formation meant to crush the humans. But the humans had anticipated that too. Every human ship moved like a living organism, slipping between attacks, predicting the enemy's path before they even set it. The alien Admiral Kalora shouted commands in panic, her voice trembling. "How can such a small species fight with perfection?" she demanded. Captain Alaric gave no answer. He did not need to. The humans spoke through action. Their ships danced between enemy fire, launched coordinated strikes, and rescued damaged comrades with precision that stunned even the most seasoned alien commanders. Every move displayed courage, intelligence, and the unbreakable bond of trust that only humans shared. By the time the first battle ended, half of the Zorath fleet was destroyed or crippled. Yet the humans mourned quietly for their losses. The bridge was filled with a tense silence as the crew scanned for survivors, checked the injured, and prepared for the next wave. Even victory carried weight. Every human knew that bravery was measured not just in battle, but in the care for those who survived. Captain Alaric finally spoke, his voice calm but filled with quiet pride. "They will remember this," he said, "not because we destroyed them, but because they saw how humans fight. Not recklessly, not chaotically, professionally. Every action has meaning, every life has purpose. That is what they will fear." As the stars around them sparkled with the remnants of explosions, the Resolute drifted silently through the void. The Zorath fleet was broken, confused, and terrified. For the first time, the galaxy had a glimpse of the truth. Humans were not just soldiers. They were professionals. Fighters built from courage, skill, and unwavering unity. The Zorath fleet floated in confusion. Half their ships were crippled, their weapon systems jammed, and their soldiers panicked. The humans had survived the first strike, not by luck, but by training, strategy, and an unbreakable bond. The galaxy had never seen an army fight like this. General Kalora's voice trembled over the comms. How can they fight with such perfection? They are not like us, they are something else." Her words fell into silence as another human frigate slipped through the enemy line, striking a key cruiser with surgical precision. On the Resolute, Captain Alaric stood calmly on the bridge. "They're learning," he said quietly. "Learning that humans fight not because we are strong, but because we are prepared, united, and relentless. That is our weapon." The alien wedge formation moved again, this time trying to trap the humans. But the human fleet had already adapted. Sensors tracked every motion, weapons predicted every angle, and ships moved like threads in a tapestry, weaving between attacks with elegance and deadly accuracy. Even the fastest Zorath ships could not keep up. Lieutenant Mira shouted across the bridge, "They can't touch us! Every attack fails before it begins." Her voice carried a mix of disbelief and excitement. She had trained her whole life for this moment, and now she understood the difference. Humans did not rely on raw power. They relied on focus, discipline, and the trust that every teammate would cover every weakness. Small human drones darted around the battlefield, invisible sparks of light in the dark void. They disabled engines, cut communications, and sabotaged weapons with subtle efficiency. To the Zorath, it looked like chaos, but it was not chaos. It was calculated, controlled, and perfectly executed. Alaric's eyes swept over the holographic displays. "They underestimate us," he said softly. "And that is always the mistake they make. They see humans as small, weak, and reckless. They cannot see the strength that comes from working together, from knowing every move before it happens, from never giving up." The alien fleet tried to regroup again, but the humans anticipated this too. They cut off escape routes, forced vulnerable ships into positions they could not defend, and applied pressure like a living organism tightening its grip. Every shot, every maneuver, every decision had purpose. It was not fear that guided them, it was professionalism. The Zorath soldiers began to panic openly. Their commanders shouted orders, but the humans had already anticipated them. Missiles that should have hit their targets exploded harmlessly in empty space. Cannons that should have shredded human ships found only shields perfectly aligned to absorb the impact. The aliens had never faced an enemy who could predict and counter every move so precisely. Lieutenant Mira glanced at her crewmates, feeling tears welling in her eyes. They were not invincible, yet there was a beauty in their unity, a power in their discipline, a heart in every action. Humans were small, yes, but they carried the weight of their people, their training, and their unwavering courage into every corner of space. The battle stretched on for hours. Slowly, steadily, the human fleet pushed the Zorath back. Ships once thought unbeatable were now drifting, damaged or destroyed. And still the humans mourned each loss, honoring every life lost in the fight. There was no arrogance, no cruelty, only determination and respect for one another. Captain Alaric looked out into the void, voice quiet but firm. "Today they see the truth. Humans are not reckless warriors. We are professionals. And when the galaxy finally understands that, there will be no turning back." By the end of the engagement, the Zorath had begun to retreat, their confidence shattered, their pride wounded, and their understanding of humans forever changed. The galaxy had seen something it never expected, a species that combined intelligence, courage, and unity into a force unlike any other. And in the silence that followed the battle, the humans floated among the stars, exhausted but unbroken. They had proven themselves, not through terror, but through precision, heart, and discipline. The galaxy would remember this day. The humans were not merely alive. They were unstoppable. The battle had ended, but the quiet that followed was heavy and painful. The stars around the human fleet were littered with debris, twisted metal, shattered ships, and the silence of lives lost. Victory had been won, yes, but at a cost that weighed heavily on every human aboard the Resolute. Lieutenant Mira moved slowly through the corridors, helping wounded soldiers to the medbay. Her hands shook, and for the first time, fear and grief touched her heart. So many of her comrades, brave and skilled, had fallen. Their laughter, their courage, their lives gone. Yet in the midst of sorrow, a quiet resolve burned stronger than ever. Humans never stopped. They never gave up. Every loss was honored with action. Every sacrifice met with purpose. Captain Alaric walked through the damaged deck, his uniform stained with soot and sweat. He stopped to speak to each crew member, offering words of comfort, listening as they spoke their pain aloud. He did not pretend that the losses were easy. He did not hide the cost, but he reminded them of why they fought. "Every life we protect, every human we save, every battle we win, it is all for each other," he said. "That is the heart of our strength." In the medbay, soldiers tended to their injured friends with tireless hands. Some screamed in pain, others sat quietly, staring at nothing as the weight of the battle pressed on them. Yet every human, no matter how broken, carried the same spark. They would rise again. They would fight again, because humanity never allowed despair to defeat them. The Zorath fleet, though battered and retreating, had left a message across the stars: "You are stronger than we imagined." It was not just a warning, it was a recognition. The humans had taught the galaxy a lesson in discipline, courage, and heart. But the cost was clear. The silence of the dead and the solemn faces of the living were a reminder that no victory comes without pain. Captain Alaric gathered his senior officers in the command room. Holograms of the battlefield flickered around them, showing the path of destruction and strategy. "We must honor them," he said quietly. "Every life lost today strengthens our purpose. They gave everything for this moment, and we will carry their courage forward." That is what makes us human. Outside the ship, the stars seemed brighter yet colder. Debris floated silently in the void, a graveyard of battle. Alaric stood at the observation deck, staring into the distance, feeling the weight of every fallen soldier. He remembered their faces, their voices, their laughter, and he promised that their sacrifice would not be in vain. The crew of the Resolute worked tirelessly to repair their ship, to heal the wounded, and to prepare for what was next. There was no time to grieve fully, not yet. Humans did not stop. They mourned, yes, but they also moved forward. Every action, every decision was a tribute to those who had fallen. Lieutenant Mira returned to the bridge, her eyes wet with tears, yet burning with determination. She looked at Captain Alaric, who nodded silently. "We are not weak because we mourn," he said. "We are strong because we fight even when our hearts are heavy." That is the true power of humanity. As the fleet regrouped, ready for the next battle, a quiet pride filled the humans. They had been tested and they had endured. They had suffered and they had persevered. The galaxy had seen their strength, their courage, and their heart, but only the humans knew the true cost of their victories. And as they moved through the stars, repaired and resolute, every human carried the memory of the fallen, the weight of loss, and the burning spirit of a species that refused to break. Humanity's army was more than steel and weapons. It was heart, sacrifice, and unyielding will. The galaxy had seen their first victory, but the humans knew the truth. Every battle came with a price, and every price made them stronger. The humans knew the Zorath would strike again. The first battle had shown their skill, but the enemy was not defeated. They were furious, wounded, and desperate. Captain Alaric called a meeting of his officers on the Resolute, the room heavy with the scent of smoke and tension. "We can't just defend," he said. "We have to strike, carefully, strategically, and with everything we have." His eyes scanned the faces of his officers. "This is our moment. They will think they know us, but we will show them what it means to face a true human army." The plan was bold. Using feints, decoys, and precision strikes, the humans would target the Zorath command ship, the heart of their fleet. If it fell, the enemy would crumble. Small human ships slipped into asteroid fields, hiding like shadows, while drones silently disabled Zorath sensors and weapons. Every movement was coordinated, every attack timed with deadly accuracy. Lieutenant Mira piloted one of the frigates at the tip of the attack formation. Her hands were steady, heart racing. "We're ghosts," she whispered into her comms. "They can't see us coming." Around her, the fleet moved like one living being, each human knowing exactly what the other was doing, without speaking a word. The Zorath sensed something was wrong. Their sensors flickered, their communications jammed, and confusion spread through the enemy ranks. General Kalora's voice shook with fear and disbelief. "Impossible. How are they everywhere at once?" But it was too late. The humans were already inside their formation, striking critical points simultaneously. Explosions rippled through the Zorath fleet. Ships once thought untouchable were reduced to drifting debris. Cannons misfired, engines failed, and chaos reigned in the enemy lines. And still the humans remained calm, precise, and in control. Every strike had purpose. Every maneuver had meaning. Every human fought not just for survival, but for their comrades, their homes, and the honor of their species. On the bridge of the Resolute, Alaric watched the command ship, the massive vessel that controlled the Zorath forces. He could see its weapon systems failing, its shields flickering, and the alien crew scrambling in panic. "This is it," he said softly. "For those we've lost, for those we protect, make it count." The human fleet unleashed their final attack. Drones disabled the command ship's engines while human frigates fired with surgical precision. Missiles struck weak points, lasers cut through armor, and the ship shuddered violently under the relentless assault. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. Then a massive explosion lit up the void. The Zorath command ship was destroyed. The remaining enemy ships wavered, their formation collapsing. Some fled in panic, others surrendered. The humans had turned the tide of the battle not through sheer numbers, but through strategy, discipline, and courage. The galaxy had witnessed the impossible, a small human fleet defeating the heart of a vast alien armada. Lieutenant Mira let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Around her, her crew cheered quietly, exhausted but proud. Every human had fought with everything they had, and the victory was theirs. Not by luck, not by chance, but by professionalism and unity. Captain Alaric spoke over the comms to the fleet. Today we've shown the galaxy what it means to be human. Not reckless, not chaotic, professional. Every life, every action, every choice has mattered. And that is why we survive. That is why we fight. That is why we will never be forgotten. As the stars shimmered around them, the human fleet drifted through the aftermath. The Zorath had learned a lesson they would never forget. Humans were not to be underestimated. They were more than soldiers. They were a professional army, united, disciplined, and fearless. And the humans, though battered and weary, knew the truth themselves. The galaxy had finally seen what they could do. The cost had been high, but the victory was priceless. Humanity's courage, skill, and heart had changed the course of history forever. The news spread faster than any starship could carry it. Across countless systems, across every corner of the galaxy, the story of the human fleet's victory over the Zorath Command Armada reached every ear. Alien fleets paused, councils whispered, and distant worlds watched in disbelief. Humans had done the impossible. On many planets, leaders summoned their commanders. The humans, they said, voice heavy with awe and fear, they are not what we expected. They fight with precision, with unity, with heart. They are a professional army unlike anything we have seen. The words were whispered, repeated, almost in disbelief. Yet the proof was clear. Every recording, every report, every survivor testified to the same truth. Humans were not to be underestimated. Captain Alaric looked out at the stars from the Resolute, now drifting through calmer space. The battle was over, but the impact had just begun. They think they know war, he said to Lieutenant Mira, who stood beside him. They think power comes from numbers, from size, from fear. But humans fight with strategy, courage, and an unbreakable bond. That is what makes us different. Mira nodded, her eyes still reflecting the memory of the first battle. They will remember us, she whispered. Every fleet, every planet. They will never forget what we can do. Across the galaxy, children on alien worlds watched the battle recordings in awe. Soldiers studied the humans, amazed at their coordination and discipline. Even merchants and scholars discussed them, debating how such a small young species could face a massive armada and survive. More than survive, they had won. The galaxy's understanding of humans changed in a single day. Some fleets, once arrogant and dismissive, reconsidered their strategies. We cannot fight them as we fight others, said one alien commander. We must prepare differently, or we will be destroyed. Across countless council halls, the same realization echoed. Humans were not just another species. They were a force shaped by heart, intelligence, and relentless training. On Earth, families listened to news broadcasts, their hearts swelling with pride. Soldiers returned to bases, greeted as heroes. They were ordinary people, yet they had done extraordinary things. They had not only survived, they had made the galaxy take notice. Captain Alaric convened his officers again. Today we've changed how the galaxy sees us, he said. They will know fear, yes, but not from anger, from terror, or from hatred. They will fear the power of a human professional army. They will respect our discipline, our courage, and our unity. And when they do, they will think twice before challenging humanity again. The human fleet continued its journey, repaired and ready for any threat. But even as they moved forward, a quiet pride filled every crew member. They had fought, they had sacrificed, and they had endured. Every human knew the truth. Victory was not just about destroying enemies. It was about showing the galaxy who they truly were. And slowly, the galaxy began to awaken. Across countless star systems, reports came in of alien leaders changing plans, of fleets preparing differently, of soldiers reconsidering the strength of humans. The Zorath were only the beginning. Every civilization would soon learn the same lesson. Humans fought not as individuals, but as a united, professional, unstoppable force. Lieutenant Mira glanced at Captain Alaric, her eyes shining. Do you think they understand us now? She asked quietly. Alaric smiled, a calm yet fierce expression. They understand something, he said. Not everything, but enough. Enough to know that humans are not to be underestimated. And one day, they will know the full truth. The stars stretched endlessly before them, silent witnesses to the rise of humanity. The galaxy had learned to fear, respect, and admire humans, but it had only seen a glimpse of what they were capable of. The day the galaxy truly understood the strength of the human professional army had arrived, and it would never forget. Humans were no longer the underdogs. They were the standard, The shock of the humans' victory spread across the galaxy like wildfire. News channels, data streams, and comm relays all carried the story. A small young species had shattered the command fleet of the Zorath, a race known for its might and experience. Across star systems, alien leaders and fleets paused, staring at the reports in disbelief. "They are different," whispered General Takar of the Veiled Dominion, eyes wide as he reviewed the battle footage. "I thought them weak. I thought them reckless, but this is something else." His soldiers murmured among themselves, fear and awe blending in every voice. Even the oldest admirals had never seen such precision, such calm, such unity in a fighting force. On the Resolute, Captain Alaric watched the comms feed in silence. Around him, the crew moved with quiet efficiency, repairing systems, checking weapons, and readying their ships for whatever might come next. He did not celebrate. Victory was never just a moment of triumph. It was proof of purpose. "They don't understand," Alaric said quietly to Lieutenant Mira, who stood beside him on the bridge. "They think power comes from size, numbers, or fear. But humans fight with something they cannot see: strategy, discipline, courage, and trust. That is why we survive. That is why we win." Mira's eyes glimmered as she absorbed the weight of his words. "They'll never forget today," she whispered. "Every fleet, every planet, everyone will know what humans can do." Across the galaxy, alien civilizations reacted differently, but the message was clear. Humans were no longer just another species. They were a professional army, capable of feats once thought impossible. Councils met in panic, reevaluating strategies and alliances. Fleets were recalled. Even merchants and neutral systems began to take notice, reconsidering deals and treaties. Humanity's rise was not just a military fact, it was a political and cultural earthquake. Back on Earth, families gathered around screens, watching reports of the battles unfold light years away. Pride filled hearts as ordinary humans. Pilots, engineers, soldiers were celebrated as heroes. They were not monsters of war. They were people, brave and skilled, who had shown the galaxy the meaning of courage and professionalism. Captain Alaric gathered his senior officers. Holograms of the destroyed Zorath command fleet rotated before them, showing each strike and counterstrike. "This is what the galaxy must learn," he said firmly. "We fight not with chaos, not with anger, but with precision and heart. That is the human way. That is our strength. And now the galaxy has seen it. Even as humans repaired their ships and healed their wounded, they understood that this was only the beginning. Other fleets, other empires would soon take note. And they would act differently, knowing that humans were not to be underestimated. But that was fine. Humans had never relied on fear alone. They relied on training, discipline, and unity. That was far stronger than any weapon. In quiet moments, Mira stood at the observation deck, staring at the distant stars, thinking of the comrades lost in battle. Tears welled, but a determined fire burned in her eyes. Every sacrifice mattered. Every life gave purpose to the fight. The humans' victories carried meaning beyond numbers. They carried heart. And that heart could not be broken. From the depths of space, reports continued to flood in, fleets reconsidering plans, leaders rewriting strategies, soldiers across species whispering the same name: humans. The galaxy had awoken to the truth. Humans were no longer just a young race in a vast universe. They were a force built from discipline, courage, and unyielding unity. Captain Alaric looked out at the endless stars, calm and resolute. "They've seen our strength," he said softly. "But they've only seen a fraction. One day they will understand the full power of humanity, and when that day comes, nothing will be the same again." The stars shimmered around the human fleet, silent witnesses to a species that had fought not for glory but for each other. The galaxy had learned something it could never forget. Humans were not just warriors, they were professionals. And that realization would echo through the stars for generations to come. The galaxy was changed forever. No fleet, no council, no civilization could ignore the humans anymore. They had seen them fight with precision, courage, and heart. They had seen a species small in size but vast in strength. Humans had rewritten the rules of war, and the galaxy had no choice but to recognize it. Captain Alaric stood on the bridge of the Resolute, staring at the stars. The battle was over, but its echo would never fade. Ships moved silently around him, crew tending to the wounded, repairing systems, and quietly celebrating their victory. There was no arrogance. Humans did not need to boast. Their actions spoke louder than words ever could. Lieutenant Mira approached him, still feeling the weight of the battles they had fought. "Do you think they understand now?" she asked softly. Alaric shook his head with a small smile. "Some do," he said. "Others will never fully understand. But enough of them will remember. Enough to change the way they think about humans. That is what matters. We do not fight to terrify. We fight to show our strength, our professionalism, and our unity. That is our message." Across the galaxy, alien fleets were taking notice. Battles that once would have been simple showdowns now required careful consideration. Diplomats and council members discussed humans not with dismissal, but with caution. Scientists and strategists analyzed the humans' tactics, trying to understand the secret that made them so deadly. It wasn't technology. It was heart, discipline, and unyielding determination. On Earth, families celebrated their heroes. Ordinary men and women who had lived quiet lives before the war were now recognized as symbols of courage. Children dreamed of becoming like them, strong, smart, and unafraid. Humanity's image had changed forever, not just in the stars, but in its own homes. Captain Alaric walked to the observation deck, looking at the distant constellations. He remembered the faces of those they had lost, the friends, the pilots, the engineers, and soldiers who had given everything. Each life mattered. Each sacrifice had a purpose, and that purpose had been fulfilled in the most extraordinary way. He spoke quietly to himself, a vow more than a statement. "We will never forget. We will never stop fighting. We will always honor those who fell, and the galaxy will remember what humans are capable of." The crew of the Resolute gathered, a mix of exhaustion, relief, and pride in their eyes. They were not invincible, but they were united. They had proven that even the smallest species could change the course of history through skill, courage, and heart. The galaxy had learned a truth it could not ignore. Humans were not just another species. They were a professional army, a force to be respected and feared. Lieutenant Mira looked out at the stars, feeling a sense of hope. "We did it," she whispered. "We survived. We showed them who we are." Alaric nodded. "Yes, and this is only the beginning. The galaxy will face humans again, and it will do so with respect because we fight with more than weapons. We fight with discipline, courage, and the will to protect one another. That is the human way." As the stars stretched infinitely before them, the human fleet sailed onward, calm, resolute, and unbroken. They had faced fear, pain, and overwhelming odds, and emerged stronger, smarter, and more united than ever. The galaxy had seen what a human professional army really was, and the lesson would never be forgotten. Across light years and generations, every civilization would remember this day, the day humans stood not just as survivors, but as legends. Captain Alaric's voice rang over the comms one final time, quiet but full of authority. "We are humans. We fight for each other. We fight for our homes, and we never ever stop. That is who we are. That is what the galaxy now knows. And that is our legacy." The stars seemed to shine brighter that night, as if the universe itself acknowledged the rise of a species that had proven its heart, mind, and strength. Humans were no longer the underestimated. Humans were the standard, and from that moment onward, the galaxy would never look at humans the same way again.